Hello there. So, welcome back to Ready, Set, Enjoy. I'm here for the main topic of buy it for life because it's been on my mind lately. I think it works well for this channel and what I'm trying to get at with being prepared so that you can enjoy your life. And buy it for life, and what I think of as intentional consumerism, these are related topics that help you prepare yourself to enjoy your life. And it helps you consume less. It helps you have reliable belongings and gear that you can depend upon to get you through any particular scenario. And it ensures that you are not getting lost in the ultra consumerist lifestyle that a lot of people get caught into, myself included. So what is Buy It for Life? BIFL. It is this idea that you acquire an item and then you keep it and you use it forever. And maybe it needs maintenance, maybe it needs to be repaired, but you don't just throw it out and buy a new one when you have a little problem with it. So how does that relate to intentional consumerism? Intentional consumerism is your next best option when buying something for life is not possible. And I'm talking about things that are simply not able to last that long because of the nature of what they are. So to give you an example, I bought a cheap fiberglass axe in university to go camping and chop some firewood, blah, blah, blah. I had this axe for actually quite a long time, close to 10 years. But when I, bought the cabin with my wife and we started needing to process tons of firewood, less than 6 months in to splitting firewood on a weekly basis, this cheap fiberglass axe from Canadian Tire gave up the goat, and the handle cracked, and the head was rusted and a little bit malformed. And so I could try to stick a new wooden handle into that head, but it was kind of cheap. It was really rusty, partially, to be fair, because I hadn't maintained it to its full potential, but I instead opted to do the research, and I bought myself a Grensvorsbruk splitting maul. And that is the kind of thing that I would consider a buy for life item. Now, why is it a buy for life item? First of all, it is made by people who have been making axes for way longer than I've been alive. They use traditional procedures and mechanisms to build these axes. They use very high quality steel, high quality hickory wood for the handle, and they design them to be rehandled, whereas these cheap store axes, it's very difficult to rehandle them because of the shape of the eyelet. So I do the research, I buy this axe, and I've been using it for almost a year now, no problemo. What I learned, though, is that just buying a high quality item is not enough. You have to also maintain that item. So in the case of an axe, you have to oil it. You have to clean the sheath. You have to sharpen it. You have to make sure that you store it in a place that will not, get a bunch of moisture on it and have crazy heat fluctuations, causing the handle to expand and contract over and over again. But if you do those things, then you will theoretically have an item that will last you forever. So, what happens if you can't actually keep an item for life? I am thinking of, for example, things like a notebook. That notebook, you might keep it forever. You might fill up its pages and you might, complete its purpose and put it on a shelf for later use. But you can't just buy one of them. And so in that kind of scenario, I like to follow what I call intentional consumerism. This is where you do not just buy some cheapo local department store piece of garbage that you want to throw away when it no longer becomes useful. You want to buy a high quality item that will serve its purpose well, will not wear out before its time is up, right? I don't want a notebook that's going to fray and have the binding fall apart and, have pages loose or have low quality paper that the ink bleeds through. I want to have a high quality, preferably locally made or made in a, traditional or long-standing way that can completely fulfill its purpose, get the job done that I needed to do, and be something that I want to keep, archive, and provide lasting value beyond when I'm done using it. Because I can always go back to those notebooks and I can refer back to what I've put in them, old designs for projects that I've built. I'm trying to get into journaling. I haven't traditionally been a big journal person, but I do use my notebooks for designs of projects, lists of materials, and writing down instructions for things like maintaining my things that I own. And so intentional consumerism, meaning that you do the research, you buy something that is high quality, that isn't throwaway, that will serve the purpose without annoying you and make you actually feel good about your choice, either because of where it came from, how it was made, maybe it was ethically sourced, maybe it was eco-friendly, maybe it's just something that makes you happy because it feels good, it's got a tactile experience, or it's got some kind of sentimental value or some kind of ethos or values that are shared with the creator or the company or the makers that created it. These are all ways that you can intentionally consume without something actually being a buy it for life item. Now, to give an example of when this mindset can kind of backfire, I'm going to look to my everyday carry gear. So I've been carrying a mini bug out. Actually, it's on the table here. Let me grab it. I've been carrying this mini bug out for over 5 years. I bought this just before the pandemic when I started carrying a pocket knife. This is the first pocket knife that I ever bought myself. My dad bought me a Swiss Army knife when I was a young kid, and I lost it, unfortunately, because I was a young kid. This is the first pocket knife that I ever bought for myself. I've been carrying it for a long time. It is small, it disappears in your pocket, and it is a really great tool, high quality, easy to take apart and service, easy to sharpen, and it served me extremely well. I, for some reason, got it in my head that I needed a larger folding pocket knife. And I convinced myself that I needed this larger folding pocket knife because I would do the intentional consumerism thing. I would do the research, I would find a great quality item that's going to last a long time, etc., etc. And so I landed on this Spyderco Para 3. It's a slightly larger blade, maybe an extra inch of overall length, maybe, an extra half an inch of blade length. But after I got this knife, I realized that there is no actual use case that this knife serves that this one didn't already. And the only reason, well, there was two reasons why I convinced myself that I needed a larger knife. One was that I would take it camping and use it on kind of some heavier use weekends or outings or adventures when a small knife just wasn't going to cut it. And the other reason is that the scales on this knife, the actual plastic on the outside, had a small crack. After using them for so long, I must have sat on it, or I don't know what I did to them. So what my mindset should have been from the get-go was, how can I repair this knife rather than replace it with something else? Now, I got in my own head. I was on Reddit. I was looking at, people's carries. I was looking at different ways that you could mod the knife. I got a nice titanium pocket clip for it. I got some nice black hardware for it so that it would be, exactly the way that I wanted it. And I convinced myself that I would carry this thing far and away more than this knife, because there was a crack and it's small and I needed something bigger and newer, blah, blah, blah. When in fact, this ended up being too big. I tried carrying it for a while. I carry in the waistband on my right hip, and it was too big. It was uncomfortable. It didn't disappear the way that this one did. And so I became very disappointed with myself, because I spent money and time and effort, modding it and getting special hardware for it. And I ended up not actually liking it as much as I thought I would. And I didn't actually have a use case for it. So I went back to the drawing board and I said, okay, how can I repair this knife that I actually love and I've actually carried for a long time and serves my use case, instead of replacing it? So I went and got some scales from Flytanium. They were fairly inexpensive. They're aluminum instead of the plastic that was on there before, so they should be a lot more durable. But all the hardware, the pocket clip, the blade, obviously the locking mechanism, all of it is the original hardware, just new scales. This is what I should have done from the beginning if I was actually following my own perceived ethos of intentional consumerism and buying things for life. So I am going to find a new home for this. I have a friend who I'm going to gift this to, because I think it will better serve them than myself, because I don't need this. I thought I did. I thought that having a fun new fidget, bigger, different brand, different design, whatever, was going to be something that I needed in my life. Turns out I didn't. I just needed to refurbish the tried and true thing that I already had. So, buy it for life, intentional consumerism, use what you own and repair what you break. And then the last item I want to touch on is local versus not local. So there's two examples that I can think of when wanting to buy local. I think buying local is a great idea. Whenever you can, buy from local artisans in your area, local makers. And when you can't, buy from the country that you live in. I'm not going to get into one iota of politics, because I don't care about what's going on with all of that nonsense. But I do believe that if you want to support the economy of the city or the province or the state or the country where you live, you should do your best to find a local version of the item you need, rather than going and buying something from another country, or from maybe you don't even know where it came from. So a great example of this is multi-tools. So recently on Kickstarter, there was the Hacksmith, a YouTuber, created a multi-tool. It's a knife with a bunch of additional functionality, and it went viral. You know, they raised a massive amount of money on Kickstarter, and I posted on Reddit. I asked people, what do you think about this? You know, Leatherman folks versus Victorinox folks versus Swiss tool folks, and now this Hacksmith, the Smith blade. And people were, of course, divided. There's a lot of brand loyalty. I myself have been a Leatherman owner for a very, very long time. I have two of them, one in my EDC and one in my truck. And so when I saw this, you know, this Hacksmith product come out, I was intrigued, but I wasn't immediately, you know, jumping on it. I thought about it a little bit more, and I did some more, you know, research into the project. I went beyond just, you know, the headline, and I went and learned more about how they're making it and the amount of design and effort that went into it. And then I found out that they were manufacturing the standard and the pro version of that Smith blade right here in Ontario, Canada, where I live. I was surprised. I figured that most new products these days would be manufactured overseas, and I was really pleasantly surprised to find out that it was manufactured in Canada. Now, that alone is no reason to buy something when you don't need it. So I had to think hard to myself, do I have a use case for this? And if so, is it an item that I could potentially own for life? And the reasoning that I came down to was I currently carry both a knife and a multi-tool every single day. I have the knife in my waistband, and I have the multi-tool in my sling bag. And the use case for this Smith blade, which I hope is true, because I have convinced myself that it is true, and I hope I don't prove myself wrong and look silly in front of all of you on the internet, is that by having this knife form factor multi-tool, I will be able to stop carrying both items and instead carry one item. It is high quality, it's made of titanium and M390 steel, it's manufactured in Canada, and it could potentially lighten the load of what I carry every day and simplify my carry. So we'll see if this theory pans out. I did order the Founders Edition because I was early enough looking at that campaign to back the Founders Edition. So there's a little bit of a novelty factor, and there's the made in Canada, kind of Canada proud factor, and my theory of the use case. So I hope I haven't convinced myself into another, you know, want it but don't need it scenario. I'm learning just like everybody else. Maybe I did get myself into another scenario like this, but I really hope that I didn't. So that's all for now. I wanted to give my perspective on buy it for life, intentional consumerism, you know, local consumerism, and my thought process around the gear that I buy, the, you know, research and the maintenance that goes into these items so that you can be prepared, have the tools that you need so that you can enjoy your life and not be too worried about things breaking, things being cheap, things letting you down when it's important. And I guess we'll see if this pans out. I'll give an update on that Smith blade when I do get it and see if it is successful in replacing my multi-tool and my knife. We do have a second vehicle, so if I am successful in that, I will put my second Leatherman in that other vehicle. It's kind of lackluster in terms of kit right now because it's a car that I don't drive as much. And I will be giving this knife to a friend who needs it instead of just keeping it in a drawer where it's not going to get any use, because it is a beautiful knife, and I think that somebody will get good use out of this. It's just not me. So thank you for watching. Thank you for getting ready, getting set, and enjoying with me. Is that going to be the tagline of the channel? I'm going to have to workshop that one. But anyways, thanks for watching.